Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Of course, do the like and subscribe if you like my content, but I'd like to just get into it because I find this to be such an interesting topic. And we are just pushing the idea from what we did last time. We asked the question, how does someone qualify for the Olympics? And we found our answer, oh, it's with the World Athletics ranking system. So now we need to figure out the new question, right? So if it were about the marks, that's kind of the podcast, not podcast series, but that's the series that we're in. And so, right, we determined that was our answer, the world ranking system. And our new question, how are the rankings determined? All right, so I'm planning to go through a very general description of how they're determined, and then to dive deeper into how they're determined. So by the end of this, you should have a general knowledge of how they're determined, but then also the specifics of answering some of those slightly deeper questions of why is it this way? Hopefully, we can get there. All right, so on the World Athletics website here in the world rankings, we've got the ranking criteria. So inside of this table of contents right here on the second one, track and field events, right, we'll find 2.1 being the ranking method. And so right here we have result score plus placing score equals performance score. So that is A plus B equals C, right? That's a very easy equation. So already it's like, oh, okay, so performance score. So I did write it a little bit bigger down here in case it's harder to see, although that seems a little small too. But regardless, the overarching idea is basically A plus B equals C. So the result score plus placing score equals performance score. So boiling it down, let's go after the very first one. So what is the result score? Right, to find that, we've got to go here to the World Athletics page again, but in the technical information tab, right, we find these, and each of these pop downs have several things in them. The one I'm bringing you to is in the scoring tables. The first one is for combined events. The next two are for outdoor and indoor. For the women's high jump, we have the same scoring, I believe, regardless of indoor or outdoor. So it's the same number system. So it doesn't matter which one you select on those two. So once you open one of these up, find the PDF, open it up, right? This is the very first page, and in it tells you, okay, in 2022 it was revised. All right, cool. This is the person that devised our ranking system. So he's the one who created the scoring tables. He's the one that created the other half of the equation as well. He basically created, I believe, every aspect of that A plus B equals C equation, right? The result score, placing score, performance score. So on the rest of the 700-ish pages of this document, you'll see that there's a points listed with events. So we've got the high jump, pole vault, long jump, triple jump, right, etc. I only care about the high jump, right? So most of those pages I don't need to know. Zooming in on only the data I want to see, I scrolled pages and pages and pages to verify that I got the points associated to each one of the heights. And it's really hard to see a table like this when they skip so many numbers and then put a new height down. So I condensed that table down. And again, numbers are not exactly the most fun to look at. So we're only going to look at this for a second, and then I'm going to summarize it for you. But to give you a bit of an idea of what's going on, we have, let's see, right about 1.9 meters is about 1,121 points. So 1.9 is just over 1,100. 1.8 being 1,023 is just over 1,000. So using those two numbers as a reference, 1.8 being a little over 1,000, 1.9 being a little over 1,100, and here we've got 2 meters being a little over And so 1.8, which is about halfway in between here, being a little over 1,000 points, right? 1,000 is here, so halfway between the 1.7 and 1.9, you'll see it is just slightly over. Now 1.9 we determined was slightly over 1,100, so that's about halfway in between these two horizontal lines aligned with that 1.9, and 2 meters being halfway between 1.9 and 2.1, we see that, yeah, right about there is where it switches to 1,200 points. Okay, so the way you read this, yeah, it's kind of hard to get the exact number off this, but we're getting the idea off of this. If you jump 0.9, you're going to get about 200 points. If you jump 1.5, you're going to get maybe 700, 750 points, right? That 1.5 is just below the 800 line, so I'm just guesstimating about 750 points here. If you jump 1.7, right here, I take this over, it should be a little over 900 points. If you jump a 2.1, well, that's going to be just over the 1,200, so I'm going to guess 1,300. It looks like it's about halfway in between. All right, so that's what happens. You jump a certain height, you get a certain number of points. Seems pretty like this and that. So we're going to say we understand the result score. So let's move on. What is the placing score? So let's go into a little bit of a description with that. Now, starting off, we see on this is that we've got meets being categorized. We have F, E, D, C, B, A, G, L, G, W, D, F, and O, W. So depending on what meet you go to, on what it's categorized, and what you place, you're going to get some additional points added to your mark. And so the placing score, right, you are going to get a certain number of points for placing at different meets. And so one spot I want to say here is this OW. Now, I haven't told you what OW means just yet. I haven't told you what C or A or GL, right? I haven't mentioned what any of those mean, but the OW, you can get 375 points added to your score for placing first. So I am going to bring this up later, so I just wanted to point it out here. So I believe this means that we understand the result score and the placing score and how, I mean, that's just A plus B equals C. So now we understand how the performance score comes around. But I want to say that there's some more information regarding this that we need to keep talking about. So let's dive one more layer down on each one of those equation things. So starting off with the result score. Great. I've already mentioned about these charts. Well, looking at those charts for way too long, I noticed something. And so bringing this up, we've got the last digit ends with a 9. And then after so long, it ends with a 0. And then it ends with a 1, and then a 2, and a 3. So I noticed why. Why are they switching around? That, I feel like it seemed a little odd. So I was taking a look at this, and all of a sudden, knowing that those numbers changed, it kind of bends, right? There's a little bit of a bend in it. And I know, Liz, you've been looking at this a little too long, you're going a little crazy, but in pulling the data apart, over here at the lower end, as you go 1 centimeter up, you're likely only going to have 9 centimeters added to your mark. And over here, whenever you're jumping higher at the 1.9 range, right, up here, you're more likely to have 10 points added to your mark. So the higher you jump, the more likely you're going to be, like, have a slight inflation on your height as far as the points go. It's kind of one way of kind of the rich get richer, right? The higher you go, the more points you get, which I'm not quite sure I completely agree with, but trying to give this a perspective, one more go anyway, to try to explain this. If you're jumping 0.9 and you improve to 0.91, you get 9 points added. If you're jumping 1.9 to 1.91, you get 10 points added. So they're trying to say the more you improve at the higher or more difficult heights, the more that should be rewarded. So for the future, right, for future reference, I'm going to pull back to this eventually. The area that I'm going to be discussing with more detail is this area. So it's going to be the higher heights that I'm going to be talking about more. So to keep things as an easy analysis, I'm going to say that 1 centimeter higher equals 10 World Athletic points, right? That's just how the charts lay it out. And so I wanted to find out, why? Why is it that you jump higher and you get more points? As far as the delta, like clearly it makes sense as to why you jump higher and you get more points, but why 1 centimeter added makes more points at a certain level than another. And so I was brought back to this document, this same document that has all of the result scores in it. And I found this author's introduction, and yes, I'm sorry, it's really long, but the only paragraph that I care about is this one. And again, it's really small, so I tried to blow it up. So here, I believe we have our answer. The tables are progressive, which means that the same improvement of result at a higher level leads to a greater increase in the scores. For example, to improve from 8.3 meters to 8.6 meters in the long jump is obviously more difficult than to improve from 6.3 to 6.6 meters. The degree of progressivity in the running, and then it kind of brings together the walking and hurdling events, is different than the jumping and in the throwing events due to biomechanical reasons. I would obviously love to know what they think the biomechanical reasons are for the differences between the events. But then also, for the men's long jump, you talk to any men's long jumper, regardless if they're at the 6.3 range or the 8.3 range, they're going to say, the improvements that I make to go from, the A to B takes hard work, regardless of where your starting spot is. There are so many people that would love to improve from 6.3 to 6.6, and they're putting in just as much hard work as the person trying to improve from 8.3 to 8.6. So to me, this progressivity, it's a neat idea to say we're going to inflate the ones at the top. I don't know if I can, I'm going to just say that the result score I find to be a little off for reasons discussed. Now we need to talk about the placing score because I have some issues. Okay, so again, got all the rankings up top. We've got all the places that you could get extra points for, and then I filled in the chart again with the number of points that you can get per spot. But, again, the 375. All right, so, but again, we're saying we need to translate that to centimeters added in order to make this make sense. If each 10 points is 1 centimeter added, and you're adding all these points to your result, then we need to figure out how many centimeters are being added. So here we've got, for finishing first in the OW meet, we've got 37.5 centimeters added to your mark. That's like over a foot. Okay, so continuing on, we've got DF, which again, sorry, I haven't told you what that means yet, but we've got 24 centimeters added. With the GW, we've got 20 centimeters added. Then I skipped a couple categories just to show you the front and the back end. With the E, we have 2.5 centimeters added, and for F, we have 1 centimeter added for placing first. So as you can tell, as you go from F all the way over to OW, that there is a huge discrepancy on number of points or number of centimeters added to someone's jump. This is another concept that I have a hard time dealing with, is why? Why is it 37.5 centimeters added to a jump made at an OW meet versus only 1 centimeter added at an F meet? It seems so far off. Like, if the highest meet you could go to, they only added 5 centimeters, and the lowest meet they only added 1, it's like, okay, 1 to 5 centimeters. Okay, I can deal with that, but 37.5 centimeters, it's a little much, in my opinion. The only thing I could find kind of in this idea of categorization of meets is that each category, they intend for there to be, kind of like a higher standard of jumper. I think I'm being attacked. Cats are excited because the birds are out, by the way. But back to this. So each classification has a different height that they think that, or distance, whatever. So I kind of cut it just because it was so far left and right for my screen. So we've got competitions by classification, entry estimates. So on here they're saying, okay, for an E meet, you should be jumping a 1.78 to be considered for entry on an E meet. And for D, you should be doing 182. For a C meet, 187. For a B meet, we've got 191, an A meet, 194, and then a GW, we have a 198. So they are believing that the better athletes are the only ones that get entry into these higher level meets. And if we refer back to this, that means that the best athletes are going to be here, which means the better athletes have the higher chance of getting inflation added to their scores. So we need to talk about what are these different meets. So the meet categories are our next topic. So with each one, I've listed them out, starting with the first one, OW. That's the Olympic Games and the World Athletic Championships. So the most selective meet there is, right there. And it's also kind of the meet that is centered around this entire discussion. How do you make it there? Okay, so after that, we had DF, Diamond League Finals, right? Kind of makes sense. GW is the Indoor Championships for World Athletics. GL is the Area Senior Outdoor Championships. Let's see, yeah, they start to bubble to be a little bit more, so I had to extend it to the next page. So A is the Area Senior Indoor Championships, the World Athletics Indoor Tour for gold level meets. We've got Diamond League meets. We also have World Athletics Continental Tour gold meets, major games, all African, Asian, Commonwealth, Pan American, European, and South American meets. So moving on to B, we've got Regional Games and Athletics Championships, World Athletics Continental Indoor Tour Silver meets. Oh, we've got the NCAA Division I Outdoor Championships. We also have the National Senior Championships. And I'd like to point out that Division II, Division III, NAIA, whatever, they don't care about you. Your meets are not on this list. Oh, you gotta go. Go. They are having a great time. But back to this. Yeah, they don't care about you. I'm sorry. They only care about the NCAA, and the other part too, with it being ranked B, I'm pretty sure it's higher than our outdoor national championships, I think. Because here we've got, NCAA Division I Indoor Championships on C-level meets. So we also have for C, we've got World Athletics Series under 20 events. We've got World Athletics Continental Indoor Tour bronze meets, Asian Grand Prix Series, And then, yes, the Division 3 indoor. Our USATF National Championships for indoor was ranked D, but the D1 meet ranked C. All right, so for D, we've got regional games, championships, and cups, third tier. We've got World Athletics Continental Tour Challenger Series, area fourth tier championships, traditional international meets, national senior championships for indoor, Mediterranean under 23 championships, and youth Olympic games. So I'd like to point out that even D-level meets are hard to get into. This is quite the list here. All right, so next up we have E. So we've got international matches, designated national permit meetings, and competitions subject to World Athletics approval. We've got Mediterranean under 23 indoor championships. We've got area under 18 championships and European Youth Olympic Festival. Those last three categories are all not open, right? Those are age discriminatory meets. So those are impossible for someone like me to get in. Then in F, we've got national permit meetings and other competitions. The part that I find interesting is, this part, that they have to say meets are subject to World Athletics approval. Didn't really have to say that, right? How do you get approval? How do meets get categorized? It's the same question. So here, again, this is actually on the World Athletics calendar page. It's up at the top. It says, and I've kind of blown up the paragraphs so that way I can read it to you and you can kind of see it. This long-term calendar contains all competitions held under World Athletics area or national member federation permit as notified to the World Athletics through a prior and appropriate application process. So you have to apply to get your meet included on the World Athletics calendar. That's how I take that. And then the next part down here is, for the avoidance of doubt, competitions which are not listed are not recognized by World Athletics. So what that means is all of you high school athletes that are high jumping at your high school meets, possibly going to various college level meets to get an indoor meet in before the season, outdoor starts or whatever. Almost 99% of your competitions are not recognized by World Athletics, which means if you jump an Olympic standard, no one cares. No one is going to recognize that. It's basically as if you did nothing. So you're, in terms of the World Athletics, you are not included. Just like pretty much all Division 2, Division 3, NAIA, pretty much all of those athletes are not included in the World Athletics system because none of their meets are included in the World Athletics calendar. Now, a lot of D1 meets are recognized by World Athletics. That is because through the appropriate application process, right, they've gotten their meets added to the list. But you'll see that they have a very extremely difficult time getting ranked higher than an F meet. But that begs the question of what is the appropriate application process? Well, I know it's a process, which means we got steps going, and I've asked around, and I don't know what it is exactly. I know you have to apply 60 or 90 days before the meet actually starts, but I don't know all the specifics. So I'm hopeful that I'm able to come back here and fill you in on this application process. Maybe that's another video. Maybe. Hopefully I find my answer, but I'm still investigating that. And so since I'm still investigating it, one thing I do know is that you have to pay money to World Athletics to get your meet included. I don't know how much. I don't know. But for the sake of the 35, maybe 40-year-olds out there, I decided to go ahead and drop a meme in here. So at the very least, I don't have the information, but hopefully you giggle. This is oh my gosh, again, I'm sorry for anyone who's not 35 to 40, but this is definitely, I haven't thought about this for 15 years, but whenever I was putting this out on here, I was like, question mark, step 4, profit. Like, okay, well, sorry. All right, getting back to the idea of these meat categories, I wanted to look at one other aspect of these meats, and that is the geographical location of these meats. So, in one entire calendar year, because I didn't want to miss like an outdoor season for a particular country area, I grabbed the 7,674 meets that happened between November 1st, 2023 and November 1st, 2024. So these would be basically all the meets leading up to the Olympics, but then also a couple meets that would be after the Olympics. Again, I didn't really want to skip over, because I know, North and South hemispheres, summers are at different times. Maybe they have their seasons at slightly skewed time frames, because I know in Europe they start their outdoor season like 2 months after the United States does, and it goes all the way until like maybe September, whereas ours ends at the beginning of June. It's a very short season. So back to this. I grabbed all the meets in one entire calendar year. It equated to be about 7,674 meets during that year. And I wanted to take a look of where are they. So, there we go. So what I'm finding here is that the meet locations, 64% of them are in one spot. And it's like, yes, I haven't finished out the legend yet, right? There's no colors associated over here. But I wanted to show you that there is one of these locations that happen to have well over half of the meets in the entire world. There are other locations that have their tiny little slivers, but there's definitely one that is seen to be maybe a little more important than the rest. So if you had to take a guess, which one do you think is the dark green? Which one do you think is the United States? Well, and by United States, I mean North and Central America. Sorry, should use the legend titles. Okay, so I'm about to show you your answer. And that dark green, it's Europe. So Europe has 64% of the meats in the entire world. And so that's just overall number. I wanted to also take a look at the different categories. So it's like, how many meats are in A versus these other locations, other continents? How many meats are ranked B, like in comparative to all of these other continents? So I took that idea and went to this. So it's the same colors as the pie chart just a moment ago, and I know you can't see the left side. I will continue to zoom in so that way you can see the ones on the left side. But just looking at F level meats, you can see that we've got this strong dark green bar. And again, that's Europe. All the rest of them are fractions of that. So we get rid of F. That way we can focus in on seeing B, C, D, and E. And the same thing, basically each one of these categories, this strong green bar in all 4 of them. The rest of the continents are all listed to be significantly less than those strong dark green bars. So again, we're going to zoom in. We're going to get rid of B through E, so that way we can see A, GL, GW. And here, right, we have Asia coming in on A-level meats. Like that's the closest category we have having something close to Europe. But Europe is still winning. Just want to point that out. Europe is winning in the GL, Europe is winning in the GW, also the DF and the OW. There's only one Olympic meet, right? And there's only one, I think, Diamond League final, so it makes sense that there's only one blip total on both of those categories. But here's the thing that I thought would be also interesting to look at is, instead of Europe versus Asia versus Africa versus, right? I wanted to look at Europe versus the world. So now the world is green, Europe is blue. So in F level categories, Europe is still winning versus the entire rest of the world. Okay, let's get rid of F and look at the other categories. Again, Europe is dark blue, so dark blue, Europe is winning on E. Europe is winning on D by a large amount. Europe is winning on C, and Europe is winning on B meats. So we have yet to find a category that the world is better than Europe on until we get here. And A-level meats only win out on Europe because Asia. That was the category that Asia had a good number of meats on. So here we've got Europe losing on one category, and it's like, okay, they had about 30 meats and the whole rest of the world had 41, 42 meats. So it's only different by 10 meats. So that's, in the grand scheme of things, that's honestly not like that much of a win. Like, go world, we beat them by 10, although we're a majority. Okay, so GL, right? Same thing here. Europe is winning on the GL category. Europe has a slight lead on the GW, and again, there's only one in both of those. So Europe versus the world, I would say Europe wins significantly. And the thing I want to bring up is that means in Europe, you have a better chance of getting into these meets that have higher performance score. No, ranking. Yeah, results plus ranking. So they have a much higher ranking score added. You have a much higher chance of getting into a meet that has a higher rank point added to your mark. So in the United States, at least from my perspective, right, my personal experience, just bringing this up, is that it's very difficult to get into meets that are above an F here. I have a very difficult time even getting 5 meets in an entire year to even be included on the World Athletics ranking system. And I don't know why it is, but I think the answer that we've found is that there's so few meets that are above an F in the United States, and a lot of those meet directors are gatekeeping those meets. Allegedly, rumors, whatever, one brand might sponsor a particular meet, and if you had a competition, a competing brand sponsoring you, you're likely to be denied entry into that meet because you're sponsored by their competition. So they don't want to have you in their meet. And there's also the idea just certain meet directors have athletes that they like versus athletes that they either don't know or don't like. So of course they're going to add in their athletes that they do like. So there's a bit of favoritism that meet directors are using to gatekeep. There's also sponsorships, which are so hard to find in the beginning, but due to your sponsorship, you might also be denied entry to a meet. And that's extremely, well, again, personal experience, allegedly. It seems like it's extremely common of what I'm hearing among my friends. So in the United States, yes, it's very difficult to be getting in these meets. So I just wanted to say, it seems to me, from all the data that I've looked at so far, that track and field is a geographically dependent sport. Like, you need to be in Europe to be a successful track and field athlete. So to me, there's a little bit of stuff off with the result score. I'd say there's a lot more off with the performance score. So let's take a look at how that has an effect on the performance score. So here we have an athlete. Again, it's not that I'm not going to say her name. I don't know how to say her name exactly. So anyway, we have this athlete. She is currently ranked number 1 in the world for women's high jump. So I just wanted to pull out one athlete and let's talk about her. So this is actually before she set the world record. So she jumped a 2.10 recently to set the world record. But this is like, I wanted to talk about how to get into Olympics. So I backdated it to be like a week or so before well, actually, maybe I didn't. This is an OW meet. Budapest. Oh, right. All right, well, anyway, I put it right about the time of the Olympics. I think she jumped 2.1 after the Olympics, but regardless, I wanted to show you, yeah, right, this is the Olympics. So this is her score right after the Olympics happened. All right, so we have here, again, it's just this right-hand side of what happens when you click on an athlete. You popped up with this, and it's a lot of stuff. So I'm going to try to describe what you see here. Now, first we have the category. So that's that meet category, right? We've got OW, we got G, W, and DF. So here are her 5 meets. So they are all finals in the high jump. And she placed, so PL is placing first, right? She didn't place second or third. That number would just be whatever she placed at those meet. The result is the height that she jumped. Now the R score is the result score. So the 2.01 being 1,229, that's how, like, that is that chart where I'm like, you jump this high, you get this many points. So that is her R score. WR, there's no indication that she jumped a world record. If she did, I think it's about 25 added points. So it would say this 1,200 number, and then it would say 25 in this blank space, and then it would say the PL score. So again, the PL placement score is based off of the place at the meet category. So placing first at an OW meet, I made a big point of circling that thing and showing you get 375 points for that. So here we go, 375 points. So the PF, performance score, is the addition of this 1,229 and this 375. So A plus B equals C. Now, I have yet to mention about this whole 5 thing. And so your average performance score, you have to have 5 in order to have a ranking score. You have to have 5 meets to have a ranking score, because what they do is they average your top 5 scores here. So the average here is 1,472. Now, hey! Well, they never react. Hopefully that's not so bad. I'm sorry about that. Sometimes cats do what they want. All right, so back to this. Let's look and see what this ends up looking like. And so I wanted to point out, again, with these numbers, I don't know if I'm gonna get him out of the litter box, but he is just doing too much. I don't know. All right, back to this. So the lowest mark that is still on the World Athletics sheets, right? All of those marks, here, the lowest one we've got is this 2.18. So the highest mark that doctor made on those PDFs is 2.18, being right at the 1,400 level. So extrapolating the data up, because we need to see some of these marks right here. So I went ahead and just gave straight 10 points per 1 centimeter higher. I know there's times where they start going up by 9s, but there's also going to be times around here where they should start going up by 11s. So right here, I just want to outline this 1,609 and 1,599, right? So right in this range. So if it's anything above 1,599, but yet still below this, I'm going to call it on the lower number. So 238 being those numbers, right? We come back to over here. I'm going to take a look at this first one. So 1,604, that's right about that 238 right here. So same thing before. 201 is 1,229 points. The placement score is 375 points. So when you add them together to get your placement score of 1,604, well, that 1,604 is equivalent of a 238 jump, right? Coming back here, just for a quick reference, 238, right? That's about halfway in between those two marks. So that's where I call it to be a 238 jump. So doing that same process on the rest of hers, we've got 1,489. That is equivalent of a 227. We've got 1,439. It's the equivalent of a 222. And then the last two being 1,419, they both look like a 2.2 meter jump. And so her average is a 225, right? 220, 220, 222, 227, 238, right? That when you average those together, you get 225. So her highest mark that she actually achieved over here was a 203 during this time frame. So we have 203 and we have 225. So when you find that difference right here, you have 22 centimeters, which for people who speak feet and inches, that's 8.5 inches. So to me, it looks like she is ranked 22 centimeters or 8.5 inches higher than any mark she actually achieved, and that's also her average mark. So I don't know about you, but I don't think that I would ever consider a 203 meter jumper to be the same thing as a 238 jumper or a 225 jumper for that matter. I would never say, oh, a 238 jumper, oh wow, the 203 jumper's the same. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, if there is anyone that happens to know the answer as to a reason why a 203 jumper and a 238 jumper are the same, you should definitely let me know. So to me, we got something off with the result score, something's off with the placement score. When you add those together, we have something off with the placement score. So to me, I went ahead and just went for it, but the World Athletics ranking system to me looks a little biased. And so what I want to discuss next is actually the effects of that world ranking system on the athletes that were selected for the Olympics. And so we're going to continue this series for one more episode about if only it were about the marks. We got to figure this out, guys. Why is this? What is this? To me, it is a little frustrating. As you can see, I like numbers. I enjoy all of this a lot. I don't enjoy finding things that are confusing and convoluted. That is for sure. But I will finish this story next time. So I hope you have a good rest of your day.